Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Nightvault!
And we are back once more. Not in the Mirror City, but to talk about the new bombshell dropped by Games Workshop today.
Oh, they've been busy.
They have been busy. There's new Errata, there's new commentary, and there's new BAR list, a new banned and restricted list.
Well, it's not a new one, it's just the same one, but with some extras on it.
Okay, well, yeah, well, it's new, it's a new list.
Well, that's true.
So, yeah, it's put the cat among the pigeons. I was having a quiet afternoon with my children and watching a film, and I put my phone away, and then when I came back, like the sky had fallen in.
All hell's broken loose!
Exactly, and I thought, oh, goodness me, I've missed so much. What is it? Well, it is quite a lot, really, isn't it?
There's some biggies in there, I think, and some probably quite obvious ones as well. I think the bar list is mostly quite obvious. I
think so. I think I've been saying all these are going to be banned, or not banned, or restricted, or banned on my every deck video I've done in the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Yep.
So I'm feeling quite pleased with myself, really.
I think you should. I think you've got a right to be smug. I think a lot of people might have been calling these out, but you know what? I think these ones, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be said that somebody with great foresight actually made a video entirely devoted to why Extreme Flank should be banned.
Yeah.
So
and some people poo-pooed that man, and they said, no, you are a fool for suggesting such things, and boom, just happened.
Yeah,
just like that.
Extreme Flank has been banned. I'm a little bit disappointed about that. I feel like the Extreme Flank, they could have just changed the FAQ, made it harder to score.
Yeah.
And kept it an interesting card.
Yes, I mean, the interpretation of it was always quite open, and they did define it in a very easy-to-score format. If they'd have just redefined it in a harder-to-score format, then the problem would have gone away, and you could have kept it as a viable card. Maybe on the restricted list, but, you know, it could have stayed there.
If it had been the two furthest edges or something, it would suddenly have been much, much harder to score,
Definitely,
I think.
Definitely. And it would have always prompted people to put the boards on an offset a bit more as well, which would then have helped defensive warbands a little bit and, you know, offset the offensive warbands, but it would have just been that little bit harder to score.
The only reason I can think that they banned it is it's just easier. There's no quibbling about which version of the card FAQ rules you're using or whatever. It's just banned. You can't.
Possibly.
But it seems to me there's a missed opportunity there. But anyway, it's banned. It's gone. Nobody will be taking Extreme Flank anymore.
Not in tournaments, at least. And then of the remainder cards, there was Superior Tactician has been added to the objectives. This is one of your favourites, Robin.
Well, I do like it. Having sort of not taken it for a long time, and now I do nearly always take it. So I probably still will, to be honest.
I think in our next couple of games coming up, I think in both of them almost, we both took it both times. And I think you managed to score it both times, and I managed to not score it both times, or something like that.
I think it's the way a lot of people play. You set up a Superior Tactician with a clever combination of objectives and score immediately objectives, and then you score that at the end.
Yes.
So it is going to change the way the game's played, I think, although I still think most people play that and probably drop Fired Up.
Yes, because Fired Up's only one glory, and Superior Tactician is 3, so I think it is still going to take place on a lot of people's lists.
Yeah, and the other ones, which I'm really quite pleased they got rid of, actually, and that's Deathly Fortitude and Southern Growth.
Well, they haven't got rid of, but added to the bar list.
You're right. I say I'm pleased. I'm not really that pleased, because I think, combined with Extreme Flank, these two cards are a real kick in the teeth for Siege.
Yes.
One of the only viable ways of playing Siege is to get a couple of these cards, one of these cards, on the Blue Horror, tool him up with tomes or some keys, and score Extreme Flank on the way while doing that. And this, I could double two fingers to him.
But you can still take them because they're still part of the bar list. But it does mean you've now got to pick between objectives and gambits and upgrades and stuff like that. I think a lot of the upgrades, it might be because we didn't play them as much personally, but a lot of the upgrades on the bar list weren't a big problem for me. But
no,
these ones are.
Yeah, I think so, and I think also
the downside was too easy to counter, really. And
I think so. Yeah, there were so many push cards. I mean, there was a new one in the new set which you could push your leader up to 3 hex.
Yeah, that was monstrous.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got Deathly Fortitude, it doesn't matter, does it? You could do that. So I think that's the right call, even though I think Siege are going to suffer for it. Which is my first kind of big observation from the whole new slew of rules, that Siege had a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, they may struggle
and they didn't really need it. They were already fairly toothless.
Skaven may suffer a little bit as well, possibly. I'm not sure about Sepulchral Guard because they're pretty weak, and their size and their numbers was one of their benefits to being able to score things like Extreme Flank. No, they haven't got that either. So, but we shall see.
Do suffer. Yeah, they do suffer from that too, don't they? Yes. So that's the kind of card list, if you like. I don't think there's much else to say about that,
No,
really. I think
all the bar list items.
No real surprises there. I'm perhaps a little bit surprised they did actually ban Stream Flag.
Yeah,
but
I was hoping for a FAQing of it.
All in all, I'd have said no surprises really.
No. And then we move on to the official errata there afterwards. There's a few things on here just to reword a few items, mostly around the warden for when he moves 2 people in all its forms, because it comes in different ways, and then a slight change to the wording of centre of attention, irresistible prize, and second wind, just to clarify the whole token and moving of things. So nothing greatly shocking there. There was one little upset though.
One little upset, or one big Mollog upset?
One giant Mollogs in your face upset, yes.
Yeah, yes, Games Workshop are trolling us.
Literally.
There's a change that inspired Mollog, which adds the following sentence: when this fighter has a single charge token, it can still be activated.
But only when inspired, not regularly, but only when inspired. But frankly, that's terrifying. But
it does mean you can charge, attack, charge, for example.
Yep.
I suspect
charge, go on guard, attack, charge, or any.
Well, yeah, you could in theory. This was, I was going to say this a bit later on, but I'll say it now. You could in theory go on guard, attack, move, charge, and score. Keep them guessing all with Mollog.
Yep.
Which is quite nice. But I think this change probably this is how Mollog was always meant to be played. I suspect that they're clarifying it because people misunderstood it. I think. I don't think
the original Mollog card was that clear. I don't think the original card gave the impression he could be activated again. It quite clearly said that he could charge again.
Yeah, but I feel that the intention with this, I didn't feel that was the intention before this clarification. I think this clarification has come so quickly that I think probably that was always their intention, and they just didn't word it right to be misinterpreted.
It might be. I mean,
that's what I think.
It makes an inspired Mollog even more terrifying because
it's going to be very hard to ignore him now. I think, and I mean, people have been possibly overstating the power of Mollog. I mean, I know I've seen him winning glass. Just about every other page on Facebook at the moment seems to be Mollog with a bit of a shade glass. So this is only going to help that. I think he's an obvious choice at the moment. I think people will build counters, and I think it'll be okay. But this has made him even better. And considering that what we've already talked about for warbands like the Guard and for the Eyes of the Nine, I don't think Mollog needed getting better. No, I think not. I think the only way. I mean, I think it might mean that Cruel Taunt is going to be even more played.
Possibly, yep.
I think
either that or Frozen in Time to lock him out for an entire round is one of your only possible chances. But when you do that, he can't be hurt. So
there you go. So that was a bombshell.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting at all. No, I actually quite liked that restriction on Mollog. I like the game when it's a bit more complicated to move in. You know, that was a real workaround when you have Mollog get to really think about. Well, I don't want to charge it. I want to charge.
Exactly.
I can't attack anymore. And I kind of feel like it's taken some of the skill out of it. I think it's a bit of a shame.
He's turned into much more of a sledgehammer. You can move, you can attack, and then you can charge with him. So he's got
absolutely. Or you can even charge, attack, charge. So it's brutal. That's 4 attacks.
Yes, he is not a nice person to be around now.
So I think that's the errata covered, the biggie.
Yes,
and then that leaves the plethora of changes to the cards.
Yes, so we're not going to cover all of these.
Designer commentary.
Yes, we're not going to cover all of these. We're just going to pick out the ones that we think are most interesting that we've picked up on and just discuss those briefly. So the first thing that really springs out on this list to us is the which score immediately objectives can be scored if you draw them after meeting the conditions. So normally a score immediately you have to have it in your hand at that time, but there are exceptions to that rule, and that list has grown.
Yes, but it's really good that there is actually a definitive list, because I think beforehand there was just like a couple of examples, and then people couldn't quite work it out. I know we've discussed in the past Martyred, whether you could score that, and it's not on this list, but I think when we had the discussion, about 50% of the comments were, oh yes you can and no you can't. It was pretty much split down the middle.
Yes.
So it's good to see in some ways that it's not on there. I'd actually rather see less of them on there, but it's. I mean, I haven't looked at all the specifics of the card, but it's good to have a definitive list. But now everybody absolutely knows which of their cards that they can score.
Yeah, it needed to be done. We needed a list because all the cards are just a little bit woolly, and with the changing of just 1 or 2 words, it could go from obviously beyond that list, obviously not on that list, or
No,
any
especially
area of grey in the middle. So
especially when you factor in English as a second language, people, just
yes, and that their translation of cards
Yeah.
can sometimes be a little bit questionable.
So I think it's great to have a list. Now we absolutely know which ones can and can't be chosen. So that's a definite positive thing.
Yes. And we won't run through them all, but you should be able to, if you download the FAQ, because it is free. It is on page 4, and it's just a nice long list there of all the ones that you can score immediately following the next action, reaction, or gambit.
So the other big one, I think this is a massive change, and that's the very first one for the kind of specific warbands. That's the Stormsire's Cursebreakers Fighters cards.
Yes.
How does Cleve work against Amazon Rasters? Well, that seems like a fairly good question, and a fairly non-contentious answer. I would have thought, basically, that you cannot count the shield and you use dodges. But there's a little bit in brackets which says Amazon Rasters once inspired, at which point they are considered to be on guard. Now, I've never seen that written anywhere. I know it says on their card that they have shields, dodges as their defence.
And that's like being on guard, but that's not...
I never thought a million years that was actually they are on guard. It means scoring, change of tactics is like a given.
Yes, and that's going to be the next question now is, are they actually on guard for the case of things like change of tactics and stuff like that? Or if you attack somebody, or if you attack one of these guys and you manage to get a successful hit and you've got the card which, gives you glory if you score immediately, if you manage to get an attack through against them.
Oh, I think it is. I mean, I think they're on guard. The way this is written, there isn't any other way to interpret it.
It says they are considered to be on guard, so, if they are or they are.
The only thing it wouldn't do is count as being on guard or keep them guessing.
Yes, because you do actually have to make the guard action.
But I mean, this is just—I think it's huge. It means change of tactics is a good, a brilliant card for these guys, which was already pretty good anyway. But it's like you don't even got to worry about putting them on guard anymore.
Yep.
The other thing is they will now be awesome for acrobatic.
Yeah.
Because if you're on guard, then you get the extra dice. So I think yes, you will. I'm just trying to think of the word.
Yes, because it says you either have to be on guard with shields, or you have to just be dodges to get an extra defense dice. So
I was just thinking about the wording. You're not actually on guard with shields, are you? But I think you'd have a hard time convincing anybody that you couldn't use it
until the FAQ comes out to say otherwise. Yeah, it's a good argument, and it's good enough because it's got this just random fluffy bit of text in brackets all of a sudden. Yeah,
so I mean that's massive for them because 2 dice rolling shields and dodges pretty good.
So it's good to see that Mollog and the Cursebreakers aren't getting any unneeded buffs in this change of rule.
Exactly. I mean, they were a bit weak, those two. So it's good to see that. It's good to see that
they're not winning a lot of glass or coming first in any grand clashes or anything like that.
No, it's important to see they're getting a boost over those Eyes of the Nine, who were just taking all the glass everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, just too much.
These guys, not even John's one with the Eyes of the Nine. That's how bad they were in the first place.
Yeah.
So. Moving on from that bombshell, which I think is probably after Mollog, is probably the second biggest thing in there, in the whole thing. What do we want to talk about next, Pete?
I'm liking some of the snark questions that people are asking, which are very clearly answered in the text on his card. I think that can he enter an incomplete hex? Like, no, of course he can't. Nobody can enter an incomplete hex. So he stays on the card. If he can't move his entire movement, then he takes damage and stops. And there's also things like, do I have to move him all 3 hexes? Can't I move him 2 or 1? It's like, no, he moves 3. That's the whole point of it. Or else why would they put all the stuff on there about him taking damage if he can't make the rest of his move? It does annoy me.
Who asked that question? And who answers it more than once? Asks it more than once, that's what I want to
know. Very good, very good. There's also a few on there for Mollog's mob and the Stalag Squig and whether he can use Fameway Crystal or Hidden Paths. And I kind of always put them together, but Hidden Paths isn't a move action, although the card says they are assumed to have made a move action. And Fameway Crystal obviously very clearly does say that it's a move action, so the Stalag Squig can't use the Fameway Crystal, but he can use Hidden Paths. So he can't use magic to move, but he can use a secret back door.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
It's a bit strange, but it gives the Stalag Squig a bit more possible movement if you put him near an edge.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that would be something that I thought he probably would be able to use that because he's not making a move action, but it is an odd one. You're right when he can't use Fameway. Of course, Fameway is a action.
Yes,
and that ties into one of the other things I think is that Fameway Crystal can be used with cover ground now.
Yes, that is a weird one.
Yeah, so Fameway Crystal, I mean, it is a move action, and that's why they've now said it can be used to score cover ground, as can Inescapable Vengeance, which I think is a sort of Briar Queen equivalent, Banemay Crystal sort of, and I mean that's quite a big change.
And it's a weird one as well, because I can see a lot of arguments on this one going around the whole what is 6 hexes away, because when you have sprint on your model, you could very easily move effectively 1 hex but still gain cover ground by moving in a massive circle. And you could, I don't know, you could argue a similar thing here, but it's
yes. Then just about every hex is six away if you do that. But I think it would have to be the shortest route between them.
Yes, but it doesn't say that in the FAQ.
It doesn't say
and as
that,
we know, people do like to take things literally.
That's true. That is very true. Yes, so that's an interesting one. Slightly. I'm slightly curious about that. I mean, I suppose it is. Yeah, I feel like they could have gone away with saying no with that one, because you're not covering the ground. You're just disappearing and reappearing.
You're teleporting, and I think up until now, a lot of people were basically saying, "Oh, can I use this?" And everyone's going, "No, of course you can't, because you're not actually moving. You're just going from one location to another." But it turns out you can. Another thing worth mentioning, obviously, is Hidden Paths has another question against it, which is if my fighter hasn't made a move action, but has one or more move tokens against them, such as being given Transfix instead, can they use Hidden Paths? And the answer to that is yes, because Hidden Paths isn't a move. It just says that you have to pick someone who doesn't have a move token next to them. And it's that whole differentiation that GW are coming towards, where a move is not a move token, and the two things are not directly linked.
No, that's interesting, that one, because we actually played that the other day, didn't we? And you put a move token on Gerzag.
Yeah.
While he was on the edge, and I didn't use Hidden Path on him, but I really wanted to get him out of trouble. So that's an interesting one that they've ruled it that way. I kind of feel that's a bit odd, because does it say they've been considered to make a move action on Hidden Path? I feel like it does.
Because Hidden Paths itself says, choose a friendly fighter that hasn't made a move action this phase and is on any edge hex, place them on any other edge hex, they are considered to have made a move action. So it is interesting that they've got that differentiation there. It's not, technically move counters, that is considered to make a move.
Transfixing instead just gives them a
move
counter,
token.
doesn't it?
Yes.
That's why. But it's an odd one, that, I think. An odd decision. Again, be consistent. They've got a move. They've got a move action. Therefore, they've got a move token. Therefore, they can't do it.
Yeah,
I suppose it's because it's to do with this wording again. I guess the wording on Hidden Path still says if they haven't made a move action, they've got a token.
Exactly. Yes. So you could try and think. There's probably an example where you could make a move, use something to get rid of your move token, but you still can't use Hidden Paths in that instance because you have made a move action that phase. So it's like a double. It's the fact that move actions are not the same as move tokens, and the two things are separate, which to me is a little confusing. I kind of feel like they should just keep them together and not have the tokens mean anything other than a reminder to the actions you've made.
Yeah, or they just need to rewrite the original rules.
Yes,
one way or the other. At the moment, they're trying to have best of both worlds, and there are little interactions to it. Doesn't quite work, which is strange. I just noticed another odd one here that's come up on this page 11. Which is for last chance and things. If I made a successful attack action but my enemy is saved by last chance, meaning that my attack action fails, what happens if the energy fighter would then be driven back when he's trapped as described in the rules? And if they are trapped, they're not damaged, so the attack action has still failed. Whereas I think for Soul Trap, if you use Soul Trap, the damage is ignored, so the combat's a draw.
Yeah.
So you haven't won, but you can still push them back. And if they're trapped, you can then do the damage. Whereas in Last Chance you can't, which is really odd.
It's another if this then yes, else no, but you don't really. It's not obvious when you see it what the actual answer is.
No, not at all. And there is somebody went through it on Facebook as to why the difference was. So here's the Soul Trap one. The attack action becomes successful and damages that fighter. Will probably be quite dizzy by this point. This is because Soul Trap is discarded after negating the damage when the attack action was initially successful and has no further effect. So basically, you ignore the first set of damage, and Soul Trap leaves, and then the combat hasn't resolved, so you still would have got a positive result in the combat that you can push them back, but they're trapped, so then they take the damage, which I think is a bit nuts.
Yeah,
but that's the way it's been ruled. So whereas Last Chance is different, which again is a bit interesting one. I've never really thought about it before. It's an interesting interaction anyway, regardless of the difference between how they've interpreted those two cards. the idea that you could still take damage even though you've used Soul Trap because you're trapped, and so you still get pushed back is an interesting interaction anyway.
Yes.
And it's even more confusing because there are two different interpretations of two similar but not quite the same cards.
I think it's the fact that whilst it does kind of make sense once you really go through it in detail, it's not intuitive.
No,
and
not at all.
And that's the problem we always have with this game, is that two very similar sounding cards can actually have very different results, which can be a bit off-putting.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's that in there, which is another interesting one.
I feel like Mirror Move has become more attractive. I've often thought it was an attractive card, but now it says, can I play Mirror Move when a fighter from my opponent's warband drives a fighter back during an attack act? Yes, when you play Mirror Move in this way, it uses the same reaction window as Trap. So you could conceivably stop your opponent playing Trap.
It's a good anti-trap card, although we don't see, I don't think, Trap as much these days as we used to now due to the bar list. But
in our local meta, not so much. Yes. But yeah. I think it's quite widely played out there. But that's an interesting little one. Or there's a little virus definitely.
Whilst any other reaction that you've got will interrupt Trap at that point, such as Last Chance or what's the other? I'm trying to think of Rebound or things like that. This one it has more than one use, because you could use it for when your fighter is pushed back during an attack, but you could also use it, like you say, with Snurk if he goes flying across the board, or if somebody uses the one on Gruul the dog to move him up to twice his movement, which could mean you could end up just moving Mollog or a beefed up Gerzag or a Crazy Fuel right into your opponent's lines with just a 5 or 6 or 7 hex push move would just be quite unsettling.
The thought of my opponent having Mirror Move would be enough to make sure I never ever took heal. Not that I'd like to take it anyway, but it's just the thought of that they might actually push somebody useful the same number of vectors as I just pushed my dog.
Yeah,
I think there is a reason never to take that card.
But suddenly a free 3 move when you're up against the Gits could be quite useful on occasion.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing else to get out of the way of Stir.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say, Pete. I don't know whether you had anything else.
No, I don't think I've got anything else on there. There's the usual set of questions of, if I do this thing which says I can't do it in the rules, can I do it? And then the answer is no, because it's in the rules. So there's a fair number of those in there. I mean, the document has got to 15 pages now, which is quite large, but at the same time, when you have a lot of questions in there that say things like, which roles does Trusted Defender affect? Only defense roles. It's a bit obvious with that kind of situation, but with all of those in there, it does pad it out somewhat.
Yes, indeed.
But overall, there's a few interesting changes in there, and a few, just nice to have, like the list of objectives you cannot score now immediately.
Yes, one other thing I have noticed, and I probably should have said this right near the beginning of the video, was that Transfixing Stare hasn't made it onto the bar list, which I think I was expecting.
I think Transfixing Stare and Tomb of Offerings will both make it onto the bar list.
Yeah, yes, Tomb of Offerings as well, yeah.
But
neither of those two made it.
Neither have been out very long, and somebody on one of the Facebook groups did comment to Nick, I think, at the time, and said, oh, about time that you guys, got this update out. And Nick, quite rightly pointed out that they do have to take their time to make sure they validate and look at the stats and see where these cards are appearing so much, just to make sure that they do the right thing, and I think that's because of that it'll be a little while before Tomb of Offerings and Transfixing Stare. I think it'll be a while before Tomb of Offerings and Transfixing Stare appear on there, but I think they will be on there at some point in the very near future.
I think so, especially Tomb of Offerings. Tomb of Offerings I think is worse, far worse than Transfixing Stare.
Depending on who you've got, I think, because I mean, Mollog being able to attack 4 times, he's going to be terrifying with Tomb of Offerings, but not so much if you're playing Sepulchral Guard or someone.
No, but even then, I suppose I just feel that it takes away some of the flavour of the game. I've talked about this before, but you've got some cards, warbands that have that card as their sort of innate thing that they can do.
Yes,
and now everybody can do it, and that's a bit rubbish.
Yeah, but then I guess the question there, the idea there is that they can take both. So you can have Magor with that and the Tomb of Offerings scoring 3 glory for every person.
So I believe that's what the guy who won the LVO in Grand Clash did.
Yeah,
because he was Fiend. I believe he did the 3 glory Magor. Presumably things like Great Gains to supplement that. So I think that's covered it. We've rambled on as usual. What do you think? What are your worries about the list? Are you pleased to see certain changes in the designer's commentary? Do you think Extreme Flank shouldn't have been banned, in case you're wrong. But what do you think? Let us know.
Yeah, I'm surprised personally that it got banned. I was hoping for a re-FAQing, but either way works for me, I think.
I think so. I think it's interesting. I'm really, really glad that I haven't spent a long time weeding out cards for my deck for our game on Wednesday, because I'd have to now completely change it. So I'm glad about that. But I think it's going to be interesting to try and see what sort of decks come up with the new meta. It's definitely going to affect some more than others. Yeah, I think your Cursebreakers are just going to roll on as you were.
Cursebreakers and Mollog, I think they've not got a lot to worry about.
No. So, until our next game, which will be on Wednesday, then happy shade spiring, night vaulting, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you soon.
Bye!